Hey, Vinyl Junkies, how are you? Welcome to another Sunday. I hope you've enjoyed your weekend so far. We're doing something a little different this week. What it is that we tried is you guys choose the content. So there's three topics we're going to talk about, and I put it to a kind of like multiple choice to see what you guys wanted to talk about. And we came to the conclusion, you guys came to the conclusion that you want three things to be featured. The first thing we'll talk about is quality control. I do have news and an update on quality control, so it's good news. Secondly, all of you know all about Black Friday. The list was released last Thursday or so, maybe Wednesday. And from there, what we're going to do is we're going to play a game that I've never played before. There's a lot of records over here, and the question becomes, how many records is too many records? I mean, do you listen to them all? And I know that I've bought them all and listened to them all, yeah. So what it is that we're going to do is play a game called VJ Archives Blind Picks. I'm pretty sure the name will change. I've been toying around with it. Probably something like every record tells a story. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how that came to be, and we're going to play a game of that. As a matter of fact, if anything, what it is that I'd like to do is involve you guys, okay? This is the way the game's going to work. I'm not going to get into it beyond that. After it, we'll move to quality control and then RSD Black Friday. By the way, folks, the avalanche of support, thank you. Keep sharing this stuff. If you think, if you know people that like this kind of content, keep sharing it, man. It makes a difference, and the community gets bigger. The conversation gets more meaningful as people kind of understand what we're trying to do. But thanks for the support. It's been overwhelming. So this is the trick for blind picks from the VJ archive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick three records blindly. Three records from the archive, right? And I'm going to attempt to give you a story on those records. I don't know how it's going to work. 1 for 3, 2 for 3, 3 for 3. We'll see what my batting average winds up being, but we'll talk more about batting averages once we get to quality control. So that's the game. Do you guys have any genre of music you'd like me to focus on? Because I do file everything up there in the record cave by genre. So even if it's a blind pick, I kind of know from where I'm picking. Are there any genres that you guys would like to hear stories about? Let's see how well I really know my collection. I'm scared. All right. Let's move on, all right? Quality control. Firstly, you should know, thank you very, very much for all of your input. It's been great. I appreciate it. It's been a crazy, crazy, crazy week. Yeah, it may be low, Stu. Hold on. Let me know if I can change the volume. Thank you for mentioning something, Stu. So tell me if you guys hear the volume any better. Again, please apologize. I apologize, but I'm not an engineer, right? So quality control. It's been certainly the most challenging, and I would say ultimately the most rewarding. Is the volume really lower? Ultimately, the most rewarding week since I've begun doing Vinyl Junkies. A big discussion was had about quality control. For those who are interested in knowing what went down in Detroit, I mean, there's a Detroit episode. Feel free to look it up and see for yourself what my impressions were. And from there, I tried to initiate a discussion. Now, there's one thing that I realized immediately was, you see, there's something that happens when you shit where you eat, which is basically what I did, right? I shit where I eat. But you see, the music industry, there's one thing. What connects me to the music industry, folks, what connects Vinyl Junkies to the music industry is just the people who buy the records. That's it. That's the connection between me and making vinyl. That's the connection between me and Warner Brothers. And Vinyl Me Please, that's it. They don't care about me. They care about you guys who watch the shows and pay the money for the records. Now, where I come in and say I shit where I eat is that, well, this guy comes in and says something and, again, watch the show. Make your own conclusions. So I saw the blowback pretty immediately. Budgets got very, very tight, and I tried to start an email thread on exactly this. You know, really an honest discussion, and that email thread is completely dead. And the people that matter, the principles that can make a difference, are on that email thread. They're just not responding to it. But you see, the thing is that sometimes when you're in those trenches and you kind of, the silence is so overwhelming. The emails don't get returned. The silence becomes deafening. The silence becomes the message. You understand? But the thing is, and when that happens, okay, what are you supposed to do other than weather it? If you believe in what you're doing, folks, should I be talking for you? Do I have a legitimate reason, okay, to be speaking for you? I mean, we talk to each other every day. We interact through our records every single day. I think that I know this audience. So, should I be saying something? The silence was overwhelming. It still is overwhelming. But there are things that did happen, and I'm going to tell you, okay, why this was absolutely proof positive that if you start a conversation and you care about how your records are made and you understand that you're not just one link on the chain, if one link is weak, then the entire chain doesn't work. The customer's buying the chain. He's not buying the link. So if you believe in that, okay, positive things can happen. I had mentioned last week, and this is the winner, okay? I'll tell you, I'm announcing a winner for records. And these are the records you're getting. And these records were provided by Company Y, is how I referred to them because they didn't want to know. I'll tell you the story behind these records because they have a very happy ending. You guys, man, you want to share? Now's the time. Okay? Share because one of you is winning this. Tom Waits, small change. Snail mail, which I didn't know and I really like. I don't know this guy. I gotta listen to it. It's a Stoughton jacket, so that already kind of tells me something. And it's Jaguar, so that tells me that it's good as well. And this guy that Henry Rollins really likes, and look at how snazzy he looks. So you're gonna get these 4 records. Okay, now I'm proud to be able to say I promise the news is good, man. I got 2 pieces of good news, 2. Okay, you know what? I'll save that one for a little while, but I'll tell you the first piece of good news, but I can't tell you where it came from. I had a very, very positive discussion this week, folks. A positive discussion which is a concrete step towards making sure that the records don't arrive to your door warped. We fixed one little thing, or at least I was told that the concern is such that this is what they're doing, a concrete step in order to fix. I can't tell you, but I can tell you that it's happening, and I can't wait to be able to put the names behind it because they absolutely deserve it when they answer the call. So that was a short one, and that one will stay unknown for now. Number 2 is we'll reveal Company Y, okay? Company Y is independent record press out of New Jersey, I believe, or whereabouts, somewhere in New York State, New Jersey. Don't know, but it is absolutely one of the best stories that came out of the whole thing, and I'm going to tell you why conversations actually do yield success. Okay, it's not a waste of time. Don't tell me to shut up. Don't tell me to shut up. Don't tell me to shut up. Don't tell me to stay concise. Don't do that. Not cool. Don't put me on the stage next time. I will say what I need to say, and when I went representing the person who keeps us all afloat. The people who buy the records, they're the only ones that count. I don't even count. Okay, so let's just focus on that. So, independent, this is the way it went down. Sean Rutkowski came and spoke to me when it is that I raised my hand and, talked about, invited everybody to have a conversation about quality control. And he said, you know what? After listening to you and speaking to you for a day and a half over this and getting to know you, seeing what you're talking about, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just blind pick 4 records and I'm going to send them to you. Tell me exactly what you think. Now, he may have not been happy with this, but I told him, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to do this live. And I came to put together a standard of records. I started thinking about how do I judge whether a record is good or not? You know, what am I looking for? And I haven't put a lot of thought into it, but I know that I'm going to be putting a whole lot more thought into it. It's coming. But I came up with 10 different points with which I judge a new record, a brand new record. Okay, and I'm going to outline those. I'm going to do a show about them. So I took Sean's records, the stuff that he pressed at independent record pressing, right? And I applied all 10 of those principles. And if you want the answer, it's on the last video. Okay, so you can watch the last video. Look into the archives. It's there, the last video or two. Whenever you hear me talk about Company Y, that's what I'm talking about. But, and basically what I came up with is you can improve. The jackets absolutely need improvement, but ultimately, I gave something according to those principles, and the response that I got from Sean was, you're right. Everything that you said was reasonable. You didn't try to savage me. You presented reasons why this is unacceptable and why this is acceptable, why this needs to be improved upon. A dialogue. A dialogue. You understand? So Sean agreed to say, you know what, I'm going to send those same records, these 4 records, the records that make up your prize, courtesy of Independent Record Press. Okay? He's going to send you the records, and I'm going to pick the winner at the end of this show, and you guys are the person who gets them is going to use those same 10 points, and we're going to talk about the same thing. Again, not to savage anybody, but to have a discussion and see where the problems are so that we can bring the conversation forward. So, last Saturday, that's yesterday, right? We'll put a conclusion on this, but just to tell you, I'm proud of this. Last Saturday, I'm just futzing around on the net. I mean, this is what I do, right? And, I don't know how I came across it, but I came across Independent Record Press, probably as jobs wanted, because I like music. Facebook basically targets everything record and vinyl related to me. So up in the want ads, even though it's not in my area at all, I get a help wanted from Independent Record Pressing, and I open up the ad and it says quality control. This is the type of work that it is that you have to do. It's a starting position, but you will be in charge of looking over the entire chain. You will be in charge of, once the record comes off, checking for any defects, putting it on the turntable, and listening to it. Sounds like a pretty damn good starting job, right? Everyone in New Jersey who likes records at this point, sign me up. Sign me up. You know what? That's a good thing, you know? Because the people that put these records together, one of the biggest challenges that they have is keeping staff. Because if the staff cares, then it's one thing. If the staff's just doing something, then it's different, right? So, if there's any passionate people in New Jersey that want an excellent starting position, Independent Record Press is doing everything they can to make the best product, and all of you that use it, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I know that I saw an absolute concrete step taken forward to try to make sure that the customer is satisfied. And the customer is you. You guys that buy the records. No one else. You make the vote. And after all the shit, and after I'll take credit for that one. I'll take credit for at least part of that one. That discussion happened because I listened to you guys, because I went to Detroit. Not for me, for you. And I discussed it, we had a discussion, and now you're seeing something. It's these small things. All you got to do is get into the conversation. So yeah, that's the quality control. I took 2 swings. They're not home runs, but you know what? I'll call them singles. I'll call them singles. In the case of the other one, I'll call it a double even. That's the way it is that you start. If you don't step up to the plate, you never know. All right. We're going to move on, all right? So, hopefully, I'm really going to be curious to see what you guys are going to say in the comments. Look, if I'm being unfair, I want to know that I'm being unfair. It's about a conversation, really. It's about, ultimately, the only thing that matters is that you guys buy records that give you what you bought. What you bought is not vinyl. What you bought is not music. What you bought is an experience. Because if you wanted music, there's a million other ways for you to consume music. If you wanted a product, there are other products. It's the combination of all of those things that make it an experience. So what they're selling you is an experience. They're not selling you a product. So what that makes people who create vinyl, who make the process, what it makes it is, it doesn't make it a job. It makes it an art. It makes it a craft. If you're proud of your craft, you don't let shit leave your chain of command. You just don't let it happen. So, let's see if we can pool our resources together and finally get to the problem. My email chain still works, folks. I'm still here. Black Friday. If I haven't burned every single bridge in the music industry, what I plan to do is a Black Friday show, okay? The list came out, and I know that we will be receiving some records from our sponsors, but I never know until the records come in. I play them all, and I tell you about them. So at this point, I haven't played any of them, so I had to look at the list, and I guess I'll pick out a couple of things that I guess if I went out and bought, this is the stuff that I would buy. I don't do lines. I don't do the hoopla. And my initial response to this list was it's rather thin, and you know, it's starting to feel a bit diluted. But there's some stuff there, and if it gets people in the record store, I think that's what the point is. So if these few little records get more people to the record store, I almost don't care what those records are. Okay, but I'm speaking for myself as a consumer type of thing. I highlighted the stuff that matters to me most, so let's see. Which records actually did you guys want on RSD Black Friday? Was there anything there that caught your fancy? If there was, I'd love to know. Tell me the ones that I should be paying attention to. Who knows, maybe we'll get them as promo and we'll talk about it before you guys go shopping. The idea is that Black Friday happens, and that's the day after Thanksgiving, right? Over in the US of A. And I'll probably do the show live on the Wednesday and talk about whatever comes in. One thing already came in, actually. Can I show you? It's really cool. Check it. Way out, wild cinematic sounds that will blow your mind. Something weird, greatest hits. These one-off tracks from late 60s exploitation flicks. It's good. It's not as weird as the title says, but it's really good. It's really good. So yeah, that's a record store day release that I'll talk about a little bit more. Other than that, like I said, for me, sparse. I mean, I underlined some stuff to see what kind of conversation I can talk about, but the one that I would automatically say, look, the top of my list, if I had to go into the store, the last time I went into to do one of these record store day things, the thing that I picked up was volume 1 of the Miles Davis 10-inch singles. I think it's on, was it Capitol? No, it wasn't Capitol. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I have all these fucking records. But the 10-inch singles that he released with Reprise, I don't fucking remember. He didn't even record with Reprise. My memory's no good. Anyway, that's how long ago. All this is to say that I'm comfortable going the day after, really. Number 1 on my pick, and I'm doing this alphabetically, so it's not like I chose anything. I'm going to do this alphabetically, but number 1 that I marked off over here is, without a doubt, David Axelrod, Earth Rot. I guess it's not going to surprise you because I just keep saying it. Now Again Records are the guys behind this one. There's 2,850 copies of it, and they released a couple of David Axelrod records, and it's one of those guys that's highly touted, and you hear, like, a lot of people talk about him as an influence, but it was, I picked up one of those Axelrod records and was summarily blown away. So anything with the name David Axelrod is something that I would pick up immediately. The fact that it's Now Again, even if honestly, even if I don't know it, it's Now Again. I trust the label to the point that I'll pick it up because I know what I'm getting, man. I know what I'm getting. It's quality, you know? B-52s is releasing Cosmic Thing. Did it need a reissue? Has it been a long time? I don't know. I don't know. Blue Cheer, stuff from Beat Rocket over here. I mean, if you're gonna put out anything from bands like Blue Cheer, I guess you're adding to the legacy. But yeah, the 67 demos. I guess that would be interesting, right? I mean, it's proto metal. You know, when everybody talks about metal, Blue Cheer is always one of those bands that gets named immediately. So maybe the 67 demos from Blue Cheer kind of gives you an idea of where it really all started. Yeah, I guess I'd be curious about that. Breeders Safari EP. This is a, let's see, Devo, We Are Not Men, We Are Devo. I guess what's exciting me about that is the ad that you're seeing right now. Run Out Groove. You know how it is that I talk about quality? That is coming out. B-sides and just a bunch of Devo stuff that's not on other records or has appeared on CD, but they're compiling it together. And Run Out Groove represents every single step of that quality that I'm looking for. That's why we fuck with each other, because it's a brand that I can stand behind. Okay, so they're putting out that record. But anyway, there's a Devo record, Holy Diver, live at 35. You know, this is kind of stuff, this is the kind of stuff that's kind of filling the vaults, right? A lot of this live stuff, you know, that was recorded and now it's coming out. There's something called that I Want Right Away, but I don't know the label. Does anybody know Resonance? There's a 3 LP set limited to 3,000 from Eric Dolphy, for those who like skronky jazz. Miles Davis once described Eric Dolphy's saxophone sound like somebody stepped on his foot. He plays like someone stepped on his foot. Anyway, there's a 3 LP set called Musical Prophet, the Expanded Studio Session, 62-63. That, as a jazz fan, interests me immediately. There's Grateful Dead stuff. There is always Grateful Dead stuff. Always and forever. Dexter Gordon live at the Playboy Jazz Festival. Yeah, Run Out Groove's putting out that one. You see, it's like, I don't even remember, but Run Out Groove's putting 2,000 of that one. Dexter Gordon is one of those, just, he has that sax tone that's immediately recognizable. Really deep and rich, and, you know, he's one of my favorite players. And every aspect of his career to me is important. This is stuff that came out much later, but the Playboy Jazz Festival is a festival that's been happening since forever. As a matter of fact, if you dig, you'll probably sometimes come across some records from the 60s live at the Playboy Jazz Festival. Playboy used to release jazz records. I still look for them every once in a while. So yeah, there's that story. Iggy and the Stooges, Rare Power. More old stuff. Paul McCartney's coming out with some kind of a single. Outkast, Rosa Parks, 12-inch. Rage Against the Machine. You say I didn't underline any of these. I wouldn't touch any of this, but I'm saying it because I figure you might know. Stone Temple Dickheads, live 2018. Okay. Tangerine Dreams, live Miles. This one, Culture Factory US. I have no idea what Culture Factory US is. I know that I met the people there and I did a little digging around, and, you know, the reviews on the actual vinyl is mixed, but I have no personal experience. But whenever somebody releases Tangerine Dream, it's going to be good. There's 1,200 of those coming out. That could be fun. What else? Ooh, these are fun. These are two big ones that I would pick up immediately, both from Craft Recordings. They're putting out a couple of vinyl things, and one thing that I really like is their Jazz Dispensary series, which is a series that basically the idea is to put together this kind of groovy, funky jazz soundtrack that goes well with weed, you know, so music for potheads. And they do quite a good job of it, and it's called Purple Funk Volume 2. Volume 1 was last year, of course, or last whenever they did this kind of a thing. So I can imagine that one being really good, and I mean, you know, Purple Funk, it's a good name for it, too, I must say. And they're also releasing the original soundtrack recording to Fritz the Cat, that X-rated cartoon that's tame by today's standards, but that was directed by Robert Bakshi and is really quite counterculture. So the soundtrack to that is quite amazing. There's another one called even Heavy Traffic, okay, which is before Fritz the Cat. So Fritz the Cat actually appeared in 2 movies from Ralph Bakshi, who's the same guy behind the guy who did the movie Crumb on Robert Crumb. You starting to see the circle? Anyway, that soundtrack is coming out. What else? Blah 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 blah. Weezer, Africa. I gotta say, I like the idea of Weezer singing Africa, but I think more than that, I really like the idea of Toto singing Weezer. I see the value in this. 3,000 of us lucky people will get to watch the rains down in Africa. You want me to sing, don't you? Tidal Waves music. Ofigi, the last of the origins. You're gonna get some crazy ass Afro funk. Enrico Simonetti, who's a member of Goblin, is putting out a project called Blue Frog and Others. So expect kind of like that krautrock, Goblin-esque, progressive stuff. The cover looks real interesting. That's BTF. I don't know what that label is. There's only 400 of those, so good luck. And there's only 600 of Ofigi for the Afro-funk. What else? What else? We're almost done. Is this segment even remotely interesting? I mean, I'm just telling you why I would pick up what I would pick up. I would pick up Gravediggers 6 Feet Deep because I love hip-hop and I have very, very big holes in my hip-hop collection, and that's one I remember buying on CD, so I want it. 1,200 of those. Death Row. Tom Morello. I know the only reason I'm mentioning the Tom Morello instrumentals, 1,800 of them, I think, is because I know there's a lot of Rage Against the Machine fans. So, all you bros, there's 1,800 of the Atlas Underground instrumentals. Tom Morello. Judas Priest Rockarola, 2,400 of them. E1, can't say a thing. Anything with Pete Rock is a big old deal for me. 1,002 LP copies of My Own Worst Enemy from Fat Beats, Edo, G, and Pete Rock. So there is some hip hop there. Gravediggers and Pete Rock, that's definitely something for me. Royce the 5'9", I don't know him, but there is more hip hop. There's some kind of Smashing Pumpkin thing called Shiny and Oh So Bright, Volume 1 LP, no past, no future, no sun, Napalm Records. No numbers on that, but I don't know what that is, but I know that there's a lot of you that are Smashing Pumpkins fans, so maybe you can just get in the conversation and kind of tell me what that record's about, right? The idea is hive mind. I'm not supposed to know everything. We're supposed to kind of like share our collective knowledge and nerd out together. It's a conversation. Even though I can't hear you. But I can read your comments, so that's close, right? Sublime. Greatest hits. I have considered practicing Santeria, but I in fact do not practice Santeria. I smoke 2 joints in the morning and I smoke 2 joints at night, though. Okay. So it's kind of bro stoner music, you know. A lot of white college bros when I grew up were listening to Sublime. But I liked it enough, and a greatest hits might be a good thing. I would buy that. Just to remind myself that I was oh so close to ruining my life by practicing Santeria, and then I resisted the power of rock and roll. Or maybe you just died on time. Modern Harmonic is putting out Sun Ra Crystal Spears. I don't know much, I didn't read about it, but I can tell you that if it's Sun Ra, I am immediately interested in knowing something about it. I love Sun Ra. There's a million of them, and I'm happy to be your guide into the world of Sun Ra. So in other words, if I get a Sun Ra release, He's done so much different music. I'll tell you, okay, you know, this is really for the guys who like to be heavily challenged. This is more the big band stuff, you know. This is him solo on piano noodling. This is when he got his mini Moog and started freaking out on it. And I'll kind of like break it down, and you guys can kind of decide by mood, along with the links that I put up on the site, and decide, hey, is this a record I want to buy? So, no, that's not it. Crystal Spears, yeah, Sun Ra. I showed you, I guess I'll tell you, okay? It's one of the prizes, unless they pull back, but I don't think they will. But, Sundays sent this one, I had already shown it to you. Something Weird, Greatest Hits. Like, seriously, check it, man. You don't even have to hear it to want it, kind of thing. And I like that. I mean, this is very, very much my type of bag, and I like the fact that, you know, the legible spine. They do vinyl right, you know. I won't comment on quality control quite yet. I haven't worked closely with the label, but, you know, I like their releases, that's for sure, and they seem to be okay, but that there is a good one, I promise. I've already heard it. I won't review it until the RSD Black Friday show, but it is officially the only record store day release that I've received promo for. If it looks like you'll like it, you'll like it. Various artists. So yeah, I should have pulled this. I have something. A while ago, Interscope released a record called Stay Awake. Okay, it's various interpretations of music from vintage Disney films. Now this is a record that I found in the throwaway pile because it's a bunch of bands doing old Disney's films, just like the title suggests. Now, the reason why that is not in my discard pile, but in my pile of records that I keep all the time, is because Sun Ra contributes a track to this. And anytime you get a chance to listen to Sun Ra do Disney, it's an immediate keep. So what's interesting about this one is this Stay Awake soundtrack is a 2 LP set. Mine is a 1 LP set. I don't know what's on the other LP. You know, I'm scared that it's just going to be current artists of the day, and I'm left with only that Sun Ra song, because ultimately that was the only song that really interested me. There's stuff, Muddy Waters and Friends, going way back on Just in Time, 1,000 copies. Oh, that Stay Awake, the Disney thing, 3,500 copies. Frank, you see, this is where Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention were only in it for the money. Picture disc. Picture discs are an utter waste of money. So the fact that they're releasing We're Only In It For The Money on picture disc tells you that that's exactly it, and give me a fucking break. Alright, Zappa's catalog. Anyway. Buy what you want. Everyone's allowed to buy what you want, but it's just I don't buy picture discs because it's not why I buy records. A Perfect Circle is putting out some kind of 7-inch from the last album. Alice Cooper, Anthrax concerts, all coming out. I told you about David Axelrod. Okay. Can it be? I think I finished this section. Now, I spent a good amount of time on that section, so I guess I'm going to leave it to you guys to tell me whether it was worth all the time I put into it, or if it was really not interesting at all. I'm trying to read some of the comments. I hope you're enjoying the show. And so, friends, we're down to our last segment. I like this segment. It's an awesome segment. It's a segment that, what are we today, Sunday? It's a segment that my wife and I came across by accident on Friday night. 2 days ago. 2 nights ago. Less than 48 hours. With all the shit that happened with making vinyl, you know, you stir the pot, everything moves. But stirring the pot's a good thing. So I was in the middle of that. Now, I'm bipolar, so I was fucking rocked, right? It's hard. It's a challenge, but uh, I I'm comfortable in what it is that I'm trying to do, so I went with it, and I knew it would be a challenge. Nothing good ever comes unless you're challenged. But it was hard. Um, and my wife is Team Vinyl Junkies. My wife is 1000% the reason that any of this can happen. Any man should be so lucky to have a partner like that, or any human being should be so lucky to have my partner. And as we were talking, we were sharing ideas back and forth, and she said, "Your stories are fucking incredible. Sometimes you're like your daughter. I don't know how it is you do it, but sometimes you pull out a record, and some of the stuff that comes out of your mind is insane." Now, yeah, it's true. It happens. There's this Forrest Gump thing that happens inside me, and it triggers a bunch of things. But I never really put it to the test. But I've been doing it my whole life. And for the most part, I gotta tell you, it draws blank stares. People don't know what to say. Lots of people, I always. It was a very alienating thing to try to talk music with people. It still is. Thank God for the internet, because without you guys talking about music every day, I don't know what the hell I would do. Um, so, my wife, as we were having this conversation one evening, she goes, I bet you can do anything. I bet you can just pull any record out of there and you'll have a story for it. Now, that's a tall order. Um, but why would anybody own over 5,000 records? And if I'm really going to talk about how it's not a physical it's not just a physical product, it's an experience, then it stands to reason that there are experiences attached to everything that you see back there. So I liked that. And I said, you know what, I gotta try this. And so I went into my collection and I pulled out two records. I don't remember what one of them was. I really wish I did, but I pulled out two records and I had stories for both of them immediately. One of them actually was a soul jazz compilation of rocksteady 70s singles from popular songs. So in other words, two full LPs of your favorite hits from the 70s done reggae style, 60s and 70s. It's an amazing record. So, I could have gone on and made a story about that. I forgot the second one, but at one point it's like, okay, well, whatever, let me try again. This time I told my wife, go pull two records. And she goes, okay. And this is what she pulled. So she pulled this Riverside Everybody Digs It, Bill Evans. And she pulled this Archie's record. Now, my reaction to this was, no, you're fucking around with me. Like, you're putting me on, right? She goes, how can I put you on? I don't know what your records are. I don't know what's in your shelves. I just picked two records. Turns out I got two stories. So, my batting average is 4 for 4 up to now. And you know what? If the batting average is less, then I'm okay. The entire idea is to create stories behind the records. And just doing this, we're going to do it live. What kind of music do you want to listen to? Okay? What kind of stories do you want to hear? From what kind of music? Let me know. I'm going to give you a story, I promise. I'll pick 3 records, I'll see how many stories, and we'll end the show like that. But I'll tell you the stories behind these two. And I like that challenge. It forces me, no, it doesn't force me, but it gives me a different way of looking at my record collection. Extracting the stories, creating these stories, sharing them with you. Maybe you listen to these stories for the first time here and you draw enough interest and you see that Devo ad and you say, hey, you know what, maybe I want to buy that Devo record. And if we're able to share that experience, then that's what vinyl is. So, Riverside is the easiest thing in the world here because Riverside is just one of the premier jazz labels. Bill Evans is one of the premier jazz pianists, and we didn't spend enough time, we didn't spend any time on Bill Evans during our piano jazz episode that we did with Andrew Rossiter of Org, but it's a show unto itself. certainly the most delicate, expressive. Just listen, you got to listen to it. But people who love Bill Evans know what that is. And she pulled this. Now, this is an original Riverside mono pressing. Any jazz nut knows what that means. It's an original. Proud to have it. Really great condition. But the story isn't only that. That's the nerd stuff that I'm telling you guys. The story is that I'm divorced and my wife, this is my second wife, right? So I'm also Italian, which means I'm Roman Catholic. Under the Roman Catholic law, a divorced man cannot, a divorced person cannot remarry in a Catholic church. You know, I don't give a fuck. I want to marry my wife. The act of committing to each other, that counts. So we went to some church that I don't even know what denomination, but we went to some church where I got some great stories to this one. After all, we went to some church, okay, that was Anglican, something or other, but a church that that's a lot more free and allows a divorced man to remarry. Now, the priest, preacher, pastor, I don't know what you call them, but was rather liberal and rather effeminate. You know, as he talked about his family, and I kind of, you know, I'm a kind of no filter kind of guy, and sometimes I don't know the shit that comes out of my mouth. So, as we're getting married and we're talking about this, here I am in this chapel, nice church, you know, with this priest who seems, you know, my gaydar went off. So somehow during the course of the conversation, I make some reference to assless chaps. I think the reason it is that happened is because I asked maybe, you know, do you do same-sex marriages and that kind of thing. So we got into that. So it's like, and he was telling me that it's a very liberal church. So I probably said something. Okay, so in other words, if I wanted to marry my wife in a pair of assless chaps, then that'd be cool. I shit you not. That priest talked about assless. He made another 3 references to assless chaps within the span of 3 minutes. I swear to God, man. If that guy was like, you know, the fucking rat that keeps hitting, that guy was hitting it, man. Boom! I found what it is that motivated this man to conversation. He liked assless chaps. And the reason I'm telling you all of this, and what does it have to do with Bill Evans? One of the ceremony things of Bill Evans is that one of the things at the ceremony is that we can have music played other than, you know, dun, 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 dun. So I hired a pianist, a piano player, and what it is that I asked him to do is play Waltz for Debbie, which is my favorite solo piano piece of all time. And I wanted to make that music something that was part of our lives, my life with my wife forever. And this isn't the record. I don't have that record. Because I've only come across crappy copies of it. You know, I want that record to be a good record when I get it. I want the right one, but I don't have it yet. So that's one story. That was, boom, one pick, done, right? This here, again, 2 for 2. I'm a big fan of bubblegum pop. I wish I would have brought the book. The book's on my bedside because I read it on a fairly regular basis. But I have a book that this history of bubblegum pop. I love this music. I love the history of this music. This is, if you want a more modern idea of what bubblegum pop would be, Britney Spears would definitely fit. Those boy bands, my, all that stuff. That's all manufactured music. That's all music that was put together as a product. You pick the people and it's done, right? Now this kind of took me to the talk that Little Steven had in Detroit at Making Vinyl. Okay, what I loved about him is that he was the only guy who actually talked about records, and it was fascinating. He dropped so much knowledge. He name dropped so many bands. So anybody who was even remotely really paying attention or interested in music could go there and just follow the story. What narrative? Okay, and it was a pleasure to hear him speak because he brought in something that I hadn't thought about. Well, I had thought about it, but he said it, and I liked the way he said it. And it's the story that I'm pretty sure that anybody that attending would remember. It's a story I'd like to share with you. Basically, what it is that he said is the game changer when it came to music, when rock and roll really took over. One of the things that vinyl absolutely had something to do with it. It was the creation of, the Crosley, ultimately. The old time version of the Crosley. Okay? It was the creation of the portable stereo that really made rock and roll explode, or was very instrumental to the explosion of rock and roll. Makes sense. Because those of you of a certain vintage, you remember those old furniture stereos, right? Those big ass things, and it's kind of like there's a fucking bar in it, the TV's stuck in it, the stereo's over here. It's just a big piece of furniture. Now, where does that big piece of furniture go? That big piece of furniture goes in the living room, the family area. So back then, if a kid wanted to play his rock and roll records, he had to ask permission. A lot of parents didn't want to listen to the rock and roll, so it didn't work. The minute it is that you make a record player, a portable record player, a pickup that you can just pick up and take and listen to this music in your room, it changes the game completely. All of a sudden, rock and roll explodes. People go out and they buy the singles. And I'd thought about that before, but I liked the way little Stevie Van Zandt said it, and he was absolutely right. I was just enraptured by him because he loves music, man. It's just, he loves music. So I went and I spoke to him at the end, because another comment that he made, I would have wanted to have a discussion with him. And a picture was taken. I know I've posted on the thing, but the discussion was, he was talking about music and how there's no soul in it. A lot of music that's from right now, there's no soul in it. There's no balls in it. There's no craftsmanship. Okay? One thing I certainly agree with is that a lot of the music right now, I mean, the cycle is so fast, especially, this idea of just, this a million streams on whatever fucking site from a new artist for a new mix means something, and that's what it is. But this stuff can be just literally just pissed out. There's no craftsmanship. So, again, you don't sell the chain before you know that every piece passes inspection. Because if you sell the chain and one of the links breaks, doesn't matter who made which link. It's not good. So, he was talking about that from the songwriting perspective. And, talked about manufactured music and talked about how, they're all going for the same thing over and over again. And for me, I immediately thought to myself as he was saying this, okay, number one, I certainly agree with, just a meal that takes 2 hours to cook is going to taste differently than a meal if you did the rush version in 30 minutes. It's just absolutely true. It's a craft, right? So he's right in that sense. But on the other hand, then I thought to myself, well, so many records from the 60s, the era that little Steven loves so much, were absolutely created, were manufactured, were fucking shit out by professional songwriters. The Brill building out in New York was a song factory. They'd go in, there were professional songwriters. Carole King was one of those professional songwriters. Before it is that she ever got huge with Tapestry, she was writing songs. She was part of that hit factory. Her job was professional songwriters. And they'd take it, and a lot of the times what they would do is they'd say, hey, you know what, this hit. And they'd take it apart. They'd listen to the music, and it's like, why did this hit? What worked about this song and this melody? So there's that factory aspect that's always there. And then when you take it to bubblegum pop, which is another thing where you're really going down to the simplest level, and a lot of times you're actually just directly marketing it towards children, that's considered some of the most throwaway music that's undeserving of respect. So my question to him, and I'll continue that thread, but my question to him was, would have been, I didn't get to ask him the question. I wanted to respect the fact that, I couldn't engage in, but what it is that I wanted to ask him is, well, how about Bubblegum Pop? These songs are so simple, but you get one of those songs in your mind, isn't it? Anybody, I don't give a shit who they are, okay? They wish they could write Hit Me Baby One More Time. They wish they could write it. They wish they could write I Got You Babe. They wish they could write These Boots. They wish they could write Sugar Sugar by the Archies. They wish they could write it. Which takes me to why that story was brought to you by my wife's blind pick, the Archies. That's how that came in. It brought me back to Making Vinyl Detroit. And for me to tell you, reconsider Bubblegum Pop, man. Seriously. Forget that Justin Bieber's whatever he is. Just listen to the music and see if there's... It's just... I don't know Justin Bieber. I don't. I promise I don't. But I just know, what do you mean? Oh. And I know only that part because Howard Stern makes fun of that during one of his segments. So I don't know him other than that, but I gotta say I like that part. I don't see any... Whatever. Okay. So Bubblegum Pop would have been the discussion that I would have had with Little Steven, and one of the examples that I would have given as, dude, I would have pointed to this Bubblegum Pop amazingness from the 1910 Fruit Gum Company. This here is a Bubblegum Pop record, and the label is Buddha Records. Buddha Records put out tons of this stuff. This stuff is, there's some people who go crazy for it, and there's some people that think, again, it's throwaway. It's not serious. So, here, show you. If you see the Buddha label, that's only one Buddha label, you know that it might be worth looking at. 1910 Fruit Gum Company. I might make a rapper really, really, really happy today. Are you listening? All you samplers. That record has so many fucking bangers that I see fitting perfectly on Little Steven's Underground Garage. And I'm sure that if I had that conversation with him, he'd agree with me. I'm sure of it. Okay? And what it is that I'll do is, in this show, I'll put it together on my Spotify playlist, the song, what the hell's the name of that song? The Train. The Train. It says right on the top, right? Hard Right is the name of the record, The Train. And I mean, Bubblegum Pop maybe, but that's a bunch of bikers on the cover. So the song The Train contains a breakbeat that's one of the most amazing breakbeats. Just one of those things that I listen to that song and that's the exact breakbeat. Every time I think of that song, that's what I think of. And the rest of the song is very, train, hurry up, baby, hurry back, hallelujah, on down the track, and then, and just, what? You're supposed to tell me that Bubblegum Pop's no good? That's a fucking banger. So, what I did was, I'm there, who sampled? I go to who sampled, I don't know what, I go check who sampled. Did anybody sample this ever? I don't find a single sample of this. All I know is, if somebody's able to do something good with that, obtain the rights to that, I want to listen to it. Because that is a hell of a breakbeat. So, that's the stories that I give to you from my wife's two picks. Everybody digs Bill Evans and the Archies. Guys, 53 minutes. Should I do another one? Should I do another one? I'm drinking Carlsberg. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna look at the comments and see. Alright, look, I'm gonna pick 3 records. Okay, blindly. I saw somebody say doom metal. I'll pick something from the metal pile. But I'll pick 3 records and see what we come up with. I'll tell only one story, though. Okay? And we'll stop. So, let me make you a little bit of music that won't get me in trouble. You guys, I'll give you some music to listen to that won't get me in trouble with sponsors or copyright, so my video won't get taken down. This, folks, is your very first music for picking records from the VJ Archive too. It is brought to you by a fine Quebecois gentleman named Lucien Bedard. So you will be listening to Lucien while I pick records. You can always edit this down. Sorry. Metal. Oh, I look, sorry. You guys are probably wondering to yourself, dude, you're completely off your fucking meds. No, man, I'm completely on my meds. Folks, nothing ever good comes out of keeping the same. Disturb the status quo. It might be hard, but good things comes from it. I love giving you guys the information. I love talking to you. So these are the records I came up with, okay? I'll tell one story and then we say goodbye. Oh, nice. Okay. Nice. You gotta be fucking kidding me. You gotta be fucking... This can't be. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. That's fucking cool. Look. The real quick one is, I picked out the Studio One Soul 2 record. You know the record I told you that I picked out? This was it. I just picked it out the second time. Out of 3 blind picks, I picked this fucking record out twice. So yeah, this is the record that I absolutely suggest to you. Studio One Soul 2 if you want to hear reggae-fied versions from the 60s and 70s of popular hits. I can't believe I picked that. That's pretty funny, but I'm not going to tell the story because I already did. And then I picked another 2. I guess I'll tell really quick. Look, this record here, you guys want a cheap record that's very affordable. You want some brutal metal that's very, very affordable. And I mean, it's Southern Lord. Southern Lord kind of makes okay records, and it's a kind of okay package. But there's one thing that works for this that tells me right away that it's worth picking up, is that it's super affordable. So if you guys kind of like, let's say, the more rough, the heavier, kind of like Converge, heavy style, a heavier style of relapse artists. I can't think of Agoraphobic, Nosebleed, maybe. I'm thinking of a whole bunch of bands, but really like, you know, the fucking craziness. Nails. Right now, it's actually in the sales bins of Vinyl Me Please. It's fucking good. And finally, my last pick was a jazz pick. Look, guys, you're going to put Lionel Hampton on a record. Lionel Hampton is probably the vibraphone player when it comes to just straight jazz that I go to the most. He's one of the early guys of jazz, and you know, Art Tatum, of course, Buddy Rich. You know, the deal with Buddy Rich is that he did something really cool in the 70s and even 60s, but he got away with it. But he marketed himself as the greatest drummer alive, or something like that, the greatest drummer ever, and it worked. And he'd appear on everything, and I wish I could pull other records, but there's one thing that happened. There was a certain type of jazz record that used to come out, and it's really, Buddy Rich is the guy behind it, and that is the drum battle. Okay, so if you look for these drum battle records, you'll see Buddy Rich is in a lot of them, where he faces off against another drummer, and you know, the front cover, you'll see them looking at each other, both of them behind their kit. And there's a Buddy Rich versus Max Roach. I can't remember the other ones. There's a whole bunch of them, okay, and I do have them, but the one that keeps coming to mind is one that he does with a tabla player from India. The record's called Alaraka. So it's really, fucking Buddy Rich, not only doing what he's doing with the drums, but he's doing this call and response thing with a tabla player, you know, who does this type of traditional Indian music for a living. And it's like they're just going back and forth, him hitting the snare, the other guy hitting his tabla. And then on other songs, you catch Buddy Rich playing the tabla. And it's something that took him completely. It was the element that I loved, because I love Indian music, and the tabla is one of my favorite instruments. Whenever I hear it, whenever I hear traditional drums, you know, I immediately take interest. And yeah, Buddy Rich with a tabla player. The album is Buddy Rich and Ala Raka. Ala Raka. And it's one of the funkiest covers, and it's called, what's the record called? Jazz a la Raka? I don't remember, but something a la Raka. You want it if you can find it. So, Buddy Rich, another place where, another very, very important drum battle that he had, you should look it up on YouTube, and I will put it up when I put the page up, is Buddy Rich had a drum battle with Animal of the Muppet Show. Oh yes. And it was awesome. Many, many, many years after that, Dave Grohl paid tribute to that and had a drum battle with Animal of the Muppet Show as well, many years later. But I guess those are the stories that I came up with. I said I'd give you one. I wound up giving you a whole bunch. How did I do? An hour, 1 minute. Okay, we're good. So that's the show, folks. I'm going to pick the winners. Did you share? Did you like the show? I'm trying to find the prizes. If I don't find the prizes, I'm just going to say goodbye. It's just a question of finding the prizes and announcing the winner. Once again, thank you to Independent Pressing for taking part in the conversation and for having faith. I appreciate it, and I'm here for you every step of the way. As long as I get the records and I see them, I'll absolutely be happy to tell you and help you with that. I listen to them, you know. I spend time with new records all the time. Okay, so these are the prizes. Yeah, that Soul One Craig Bayer is definitely a reissue, Soul Jazz. So Tom Waits, Small Change, reissue, Anti Records. I've listened to it. I have my notes. Snail Mail, Lush, Matador, different labels, right? Lonnie Holly, Jaguar. Secretly Canadian, Alex Cameron. These are the 4 records that you're getting. My choice for this week will be, who should I choose? Who should I choose? Keith Cowell. Yeah, Keith Cowell, you're getting the records. The reason it is that you're getting the records is pretty simple. You engaged in this entire conversation. You're one of the people, amongst many of you, that really gave me the information, fed me your experiences that I was able to take to Detroit. So, you know, it's guys like us that kind of like started the whole thing. So it got us somewhere. Thanks, man. And I mean, he's got 5,000 records, so I figure he knows records. He's going to be getting those 4 records from Independent, and he's going to be giving us a complete rundown on them. I don't know the records. I don't know what he's getting, but he's getting the same thing I got, and we're going to compare notes according to those 10 points that I said about quality control. That show's coming up. Folks, I am absolutely done. I hope you liked it. I enjoyed talking to you, man. I always do, right? Enjoy the rest of your